Hello everyone, I'm Kevin and this is part 2B in my modding Minecraft 1.8 series. In this video we're going to jump right into the Minecraft code and add our new elements. After I finished the last video I was pretty unsatisfied with the textures I created, so I took the time to make some new ones. I also use a custom HD texture pack that I compiled myself from bits and pieces of other packs. So I created 4 HD textures for the sulfur and potassium using stone from my HD textures, and then added them to the resource pack. I tried recording this video earlier today, but by the time I could get around to it, my son was home and I couldn't record any audio until after he went to bed. So I did all the coding without a mic and then recorded a voiceover for it later. So here it is. Before we start, let's address these errors and warnings. If you see these in your problems tab, you can just delete them or ignore them. The errors are there because Eclipse can't find the server code, and the warnings are from a couple of old functions that aren't used anymore. Now, since we're using coal as a template, let's do a file search for all occurrences of the word coal in the game code. Click on Search and File, type coal and do a search. Now we have our search results. Let's go through it and remove all the files we won't need. Don't worry, deleting a search result won't delete the file. First, let's expand all the folders. Now, block fire, we're not going to need. Can delete that. The entire GUI folder can go. The resource folder can go. The whole entity folder can go. Under item crafting, the furnace recipes and the recipes for ingots can go. And the item coal.java can go. Tile entity and structure under gen. And this is the list of files we'll be working with to make our mod. We're going to start with blocks.java under the ini folder. Open that up. And scroll down to the bottom of the variable declarations at around line 238. Here we create 2 static block variables. A potassium underscore ore and a sulfur underscore ore. Now we scroll down to the bottom at around line 456 and assign the registered blocks to them using the getRegisterBlock function. These are registers that we'll create later in another class. Now that we're done with this blocks.java class, make sure to save and close. In our search results, we can also delete this class since we won't need it anymore. Now you can open the items.java class. And same as the block class, here we create two static item variables and assign our registers to them. We can also delete this class from our search results now. Now open up block.java under the block folder. Here we register our two blocks in this blocks list. We need to tell the register block function which element in the list to place the block. Col_or, for instance, is under element 16. Let's copy col_or, highlight the line, Control-C to copy. Now scroll down to the bottom of the register block list at around line 1405 and paste the col_or in. And the last native block was registered at 197, so we'll start our blocks at 198 and 199. Now we can delete block.java and open up item.java. Here we're going to do the same thing as block.java. We're going to register our two items. If you scroll down to 590, just under the col_or, we can register our item blocks. Item blocks are different from items and blocks. These are what drop when you mine a block with a silk touch. I'll scroll down to the register items list, and at the very bottom, at around line 1053, we register our items at element 432 and 433. Now we can delete the item.java file from our search results. Now let's open the block_or.java. In the getItemDropped function, we add our two blocks to the conditional statement. This function defines what to drop when we mine a block. And scroll down to the bottom. In the drop block as item with chance function, we add two more else ifs. This function returns how many items to drop when a block is mined. We'll set both of our blocks to drop one item each, just to keep things balanced. And we delete block_or.java from our search results. Now open renderitem.java. Here we register our two blocks and items to the rendering list. Otherwise, the blocks and items won't be drawn in the world. Scroll down to register items at around line 529 and add our blocks. Then our items. Now you can delete renderitem.java and open itempickaxe.java. The canHarvest block in the itempickaxe class returns whether or not a block can be harvested with the currently equipped pickaxe. We'll set this to return true on our blocks if the player is using a level 1 pickaxe or better. Now we can delete item pickaxe.java and open chunk provider settings.java. In the chunk provider settings class, we set up the attributes for our blocks, their frequency of distribution in the world, how big the veins are, and the minimum and maximum layer height they can be generated. So at the bottom of the variable declarations at line 96, we create 4 variables for each block to store these attributes. Now we scroll down to the end of the chunk provider settings constructor at line 108 and assign these variables values from the factory subclass, which we'll be adding to in a moment. Now we scroll down to the factory subclass. Inside the factory subclass, we create those variables and set our attribute values. At line 286, we create the 8 variables that were just assigned to the chunk provider settings variables in the constructor, and we give them values. These are values I found to be balanced and fair. Feel free to experiment with your own numbers. Just a little advice: keep minimum and maximum height below 255, and make sure minimum height never exceeds maximum height. Now highlight this chunk, copy, and scroll down to line 406 and paste them here. Change the variable declarations to this, and make sure these values always match the ones above. Now scroll down to line 428. We need to add our variables to this equals function. This is a very long line of code, but very necessary. I pasted the entire line in the box below and highlighted the parts that need to be added in case you have a hard time following along. Personally, I avoid ternary operators as much as possible, especially for long statements like this. It makes for really hard to read code. Now that we're done with that unpleasantness, let's scroll down to line 515. We need to add our block attributes to this hashcode function for them to generate properly in the world. Now scroll down to line 636. Again, we need to add our block attributes to this JSON serializer so they can be saved and read from a JSON file. And we need to add a property for each attribute again at line 739. With that done, the bulk of the work is done. We can save and close the chunk provider settings class and remove it from our search results. Now we can open biomedecorator.java. Here we need to create new world generator variable for each of our blocks. Now scroll down to line 198 and initialize these generator variables as mineable blocks of type sulfur ore and potassium ore. The size attribute is required as a parameter. Now scroll down to the very end. In the generate ores function at line 475, we finally add our blocks to the world generator. Now save and close biomedecorator.java. And we can remove it from our search results. Only one last thing to do. Open the crafting manager. And scroll down to line 192. Let's add our gunpowder recipe. This will be a shapeless recipe, which means that no matter what order you put the items in the grid, you'll get gunpowder. Now save craftingmanager.java and close. Now this is the final step before we can compile. Open your MCP inject folder and navigate to the lang file. We need to add the in-game names of our blocks and items to this file. Now we're ready to compile. Open the MCP folder and run the recompile.bat file. And that's it. Here's a few extra recipes you can add to the recipe manager. They're a little cheaty, but I only use them when I play with my son. I also added a link in the description to download the source files and assets for this project. And before I run the game and test out our little mod, I'd like to remind you to hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe for more. So, without further ado, here it is.